Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron and I am back with more Battlytics excitement. Tonight is the underachiever of the millennium. This is the Bombardier, the BMB-10D. So this was one that one of the patrons asked me to look at. This is a 65-ton mech. It was around in the Star League era. And then, there was some Lost Tech action where, well, I mean, all the stuff got lost and it got even worse. And then Comstar tried to refit it. So there's a handful of Bombardier variants. The one, again, we're looking at is the 10D. This thing is about as standard gets. Nothing special on it. It does have 12.5 tons of armor, so it is generously armored for a 65-ton mech, I think. It packs twin LRM-20s, which sounds nice. However, it only has 6 rounds per launcher, and it only has 10 heat sinks. So it's sort of got, the Archer 2R syndrome in that regard. In addition, it's got an SRM-4 on the right arm. It's got a machine gun and 200 rounds of, self-exploding death in the center torso. Again, never understood why the machine gun has so many rounds of ammunition when it can only shoot once per turn. But such is life in BattleTech. The armor distribution's okay. Could be better. We'll talk about that. It does have 2 hands, so you can pick things up like trees or girders and hit your opponent over the head when you run out of ammo, which will happen very quickly in this design. But it is only 1340 battle value. I don't know. There are some things I think I would take for 1340. I don't want to harsh on the Bombardier, but I don't know. We'll see. But Battlytics doesn't lie. Only my opinions do. So let's dive into the numbers, guys. Stick around. Bombardier analysis coming right up. All right, so here it is, the offensive benchmarks. First thing you will notice is immediately the heat starts going up. If you're looking at the red line analysis in the top left, that means you fire everything as much as possible. You'll see it gains 3 points of heat per turn over the first 6 turns. And then what you notice is it doesn't gain any more heat. It just holds at 18, and then that starts dropping off. And you might ask yourself, well, like, why is that? It's because it runs out of ammunition on the LRM-20 launchers, and it's just basically running flat for a while. So such is life. If we look at the optimized benchmark, obviously it's doing a little bit more of a complex firing pattern. It's firing 1 launcher, it's firing 2 launchers, firing 1 launcher, firing 2, right? So it's alternating, so the ammo lasts a little bit longer, and then as it gets closer, it tries to, dump everything and unload until that, that machine gun basically can come into play. Our baseline damage is 112.4. And I'm going to be honest, like, that's not terrible for a 65-ton mech in this era. We have seen better, of course, like recently when you look at some of the 3060 era, Omni-mechs and things, it more than doubles this. But for a 65-ton mech of this era, it's not terrible. It's not great either. Optimized does 115, and then, Redline, which is where you hold the trigger down, it does 70 points of damage. So this is not the kind of mech that you want to give a new player where they think they can just fire everything and build up tons of heat. It will underperform and be awful. I think a player with a little bit of finesse might be able to get some mileage out of this thing, but that's that. Now, in terms of the lethality index, it only scored a 49% kill rate on the Javelin. That means only 49% of the time it's able to bring down the Javelin in the 12 turns. That stinks. The average time to kill is 15.38, so it's taking a full 15 turns or more to take this Javelin down. Now, it does generate a decent number of critical hits, 4.31, so it's slightly above average in that regard, courtesy of, all the LRM clusters, SRM clusters, things along those lines. But damage per hit, not great, 4.3, same deal. It's a shotgun mech, and sort of that is what you get. So overall, offensive, not blown away, but we can take a look at the defensive benchmarks. Maybe it's a survivor. All right, so here we are on the defensive benchmark. So a couple of things here. I want to draw your attention to the armor diagnostic. The front, this is like the complete opposite of the Templar and like the antithesis of like how I would ever want a mech to be designed. It's weaker in the front center torso than it is on the side torsos, and the rear torso is so over armored it barely fits on the chart. I don't know why it was designed this way. Maybe the mech was supposed to be running away while firing missiles over its shoulder. I don't know. But it's a very silly armor distribution. And, you know, does it make a difference? I think it would. You know, you're talking a couple of percent points here and there, but listen, everything counts, especially when you're dealing with a suboptimal, you know, weapon loadout. So it's arms, which hold only, I mean, only have the SRM-4, you know, are very, very strongly armored. But yet that center torso, which is, you know, very, very important. The side torsos, obviously, with the main weapons there, you know, they're under armored. And the LRM 20 ammo is in the right torso as well. So you'd think you'd want that thing juiced up, and the MG ammo we talked about in the center torso as well. Anyway, mobility wise, it does okay. It takes, you know, a mobility hit 2.4% of the time. So for every 100 hits, you know, 2.5 of them are basically motive hits. Is that good or bad? I mean, it's not bad. It's holding an average target mod of 1.87 throughout the total game. It does lose a little bit of speed. On average, you're going to take something. The left leg and right legs are not packed out with crits, right? They're just 4 of 6 with 2 roll again slots. And, you know, that's that. Now, if we look at the survivability chart and the breakdown, it is a standard engine, right? So you can see that engine kills very low probability. Now, that is inclusive of having machine gun ammo in the you know, machine gun ammo basically in that segment there. But the ammo deaths, right, are through the roof. I mean, they're through the roof. So ammo deaths contribute to 23.7% of the total deaths, and the total deaths was at like 58.6%. So almost half of them are from ammunition. 13% are from just normal core out or head kills, and then engine deaths are 1.8%, so very low there. So if we look at the ammo analysis, in the right torso, 28.6% you're going to hit ammo, and the right arm 16.7%. But again, the right arm's really not contributing a ton there. Although, I mean, it is 25 SRM-4 rounds, so if you do get that crit, I mean, it's 100 points of damage. It's going to go through the internal structure. It could be pretty bad. And then the CT, obviously, that's pretty packed out, though. You only have like an 8.3% chance of, it's like 1 in 11 or whatever I think it is, of hitting, I'm sorry, actually 1 in 12 of hitting ammo in the CT. So it's really that right torso, and it's amazing that it's contributing to so many deaths. But I think that right arm actually is probably bleeding through more than I initially would have thought, you know, because if you think about it, even if, you know, you're 6 or 8 turns in, call it 10 turns in, you know, 15 times, so it's still 60 points of damage. That's a lot. That's a lot. In fact, I want to take a quick look here and do the math on it. So the internal structure for a 65-ton mech, it only has 51 points, assuming, actually, I'm sorry, less than that. It only has 46 points from arm to CT if it was totally fresh. So even 15 rounds of SRM-4 ammo are going to bake off pretty hard on this mech. So that's that. Ammo explosions suck in BattleTech. That's the moral of the story. Why don't we take a look at the efficiency analysis? Again, not harshing on this mech. Maybe it'll impress me. I mean, it's not like terrible, but I just don't think it's going to blow me away. I would imagine it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Lower cost, average damage, Succession Wars era. Let's take a look. All right, so here it is, efficiency analysis. Survey says 5.58. So that's not terrible. You know, it's, again, this thing is not going to blow the doors off your opponent, but it's also not like a 3 or a 2. It's not like that bad. I mean, 61.4% on the survival is not awful. Damage loss is only 9.2%. Most of the, you know, the survivability starts to tank off at closer ranges. So to me, right, if you look at Sarna, it talks about this mech and the purpose of it as an artillery mech. The SRM-4 and the machine gun are the kind of thing that, like, you use in case of emergency. I mean, the downside is it only has 12 shots with the LRM-20s, right? So, you know, I mean, I guess you can use this thing very, very, like, strategically, and you position it and you wait, and then when you have a good shot, you pop it out, you drop 2 LRM-20s in on somebody, and then you get back and cover, you know, wash, rinse, repeat. I'm not really sure. What's interesting is the gunnery sensitivity. It's very, very high on this thing, 0.8, because the better your gunner is, the more damage you're putting downrange with those LRMs before you run out of ammo. That is super, super critical. So if you can put a better gunner in, you will start to see return on investment. But at the same time, like, do you really want a great gunner in such a mech that can't really do that much more? So like a gunnery 2, for example, the effective ACD, which that's the average calculated damage that factors in your survivability, is 104.85. At gunnery 2, it's 133.8. So do you really need that extra 30-ish damage over 12 turns? Maybe, maybe not. The cost price point goes up by, was it about 250 BV or so, give or take, 275 maybe. And I'm looking, by the way, guys, in the bottom center. You can see those purple horizontal bars. It's gunnery 4 at the top, gunnery 0 at the bottom. You can see the bars increase for damage. And on the right side of that chart, you can see the BV values adjusted for each level of gunnery. And surprisingly, it's fine. Some folks don't know this, but in the rules, as you increase gunnery, as you increase piloting, the BV of that mech is adjusted. And there's a table in the tech manual. I think it was errated at some point, maybe a year or two ago, but there's modifiers for that. And it's actually on master unit list as well. It shows a little matrix and you can find the correct battle value for that. But that's basically what this is showing you as the gunnery goes up, the cost goes up, but you're still getting a bigger return on investment. And it's a substantial one at 0.8 gunnery sensitivity. All right, so let's talk about threat. Let's talk about roles. Let's get into all that stuff. All right, so role evaluation for me, two things. One is a defender, one is a fire support mech. I mean, these are, I think, no-brainers. Fire support, obviously, it's got twin LRM-20s. It's basically a, sort of kind of like a catapult with the SRM-4 and a machine gun and some more armor. It doesn't have the jump jets, obviously, but such is life. I think it's good in defender role, too. It has decent survivability. Obviously, if you keep it protected and make sure it doesn't take an ammo hit on that side or, on anything on that, the arm, the torso, if you can try to protect its vulnerable side, like you could probably get a little bit of mileage out this. It does have the SRM-4 in case something small gets close and inside of your minimum range of the LRMs. You have the SRM-4, you have the machine gun. But at the end of the day, like, this thing is really a deterrent. It's not going to actually kill anything on its own, I think, if it got close. Like, I'd be afraid of light mechs. If you left this thing, like, unsupported on an objective, I would be afraid that light mechs would get close to it, get inside its LRM minimum range, and it's like it's screwed. It's got nothing. It's basically like, half of a Jenner. So just stuff to think about in terms of how you would play this mech. I mean, I really do think fire support is the #1 role for this thing. It does steady damage, like pretty steady damage throughout. But you can see the ACD cap is very low, right? It's very dependent. It's very variable. It's very dependent on the dice. If you're rolling hot, like, God bless, you're going to do a decent amount of damage. If you get some bad cluster conformations, like, it could do total crap. So that's just something to consider too. But that's the Bombardier, guys. That's all I got on this mech. I'm interested to see what you think about it. I know some of you love it, some of you hate it, but tell me what you think, and tell me if there's better variants out there. I did look at the Comstar one with all the Artemis 20s and the ER small. I looked at there's a few of them out there, not many though. And the 12D wasn't much better in my opinion. I opted to do the 10D for the cost and just the simplicity of the tech, but interested to hear what you guys have to think about that. That said, head on over to Aries Games and Minis, guys. What are you waiting for? Go treat yourself. Buy yourself some BattleTech stuff, minis, dice, books, novels, terrain, anything you need is over at Aries Games and Minis. They carry all the best stuff for BattleTech. If you want to help out the channel, you can subscribe. You can give us a like, leave us a comment. There is the super thanks option as well if you want to leave us a tip right on the video. You can buy our merch. There's the merch shelf right underneath the video there as well. If you want to get more involved, you can head on over to Patreon. There's $1, $5, $10 a month. There's a few different tiers. There's also a new elite tier if you want to support the channel even more. And each of those tiers has different perks involved with it. So you can head on over there and join in on the action if you so desire. But all that said, guys, I'm all wrapped up, so I hope you enjoyed this review of the Bombardier. Thanks for watching, and of course, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a good night.